And welcome, God damn it, Jim. And welcome to the Space Game Junkie Podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Jim.
The bright light at the end of the universe.
And your co-host...
This is a space train.
I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I apologize.
People hope. They hope.
And also joining us is your co-host, Hunter.
You know, Brian, if you win that Powerball, it'll put Space Game Junkie on the map.
You know what? I will seriously work on this site full time. If I won the Powerball,
$1 billion, you better be calling Elon Musk and be like, I want to ride. Let's go. We're gonna do the first live from Space Game Junkie show.
We would
$1 billion.
Yes.
Oh my God, we would go to the ISS and we do a podcast up there.
Yeah,
all three of us. That'd be amazing.
Oh yeah, no, we would totally do that. No question.
We'd be like Richard Garriott. Suck it.
Be right
We're
back.
also
Going to
in
space. Be right back. Going to space.
There's no podcast for a couple of weeks because we're training to be astronauts. Okay, so we'll be back with a very special podcast when we're actually in space.
And I would totally like sing Space Oddity as I float around the ISS.
You wouldn't sing I ain't gonna miss a thing or whatever from Aerosmith.
Oh God, no! Did you see that video that the astronaut did a couple years ago, and he sang Space Oddity on the space station?
No, but that sounds perfect.
It was
but
awesome.
I would take an animal cracker and rub it around on Liv Tyler though, because that was the best scene in the movie.
Okay, I don't know if my cursing is worse than that, but anyway, folks, we do have a guest joining us all the way from the other side of the planet in Melbourne, Australia, the developer of Star Nomad 2. Huy, and I hope I said that right, Phan.
G'day, guys.
Good day. Oh, you did it. You totally went there.
No, it means it's actually night. Good night. Good day. Because for us it's night, and him it's day.
It's lunchtime here, guys.
Yeah, wow. Wow, okay, so how many hours? You're like a million hours ahead of me. Yeah, I'm the one farthest away, I think, in LA here.
Yeah, or
anyway.
Closest if you go backwards.
Yeah, maybe. Distance-wise, I might be I don't know. Anyway, welcome, man, and you have a great game we're here to talk about today. Now, I'm going to be honest, I kind of bounced off Star Nomad 1, I'll be honest. I did. It's
okay, it's shit.
Oh, okay, whoa. Wait a minute.
No, for real. I admit it.
Well, we liked it more than you did.
I wasn't saying it was shit. I'm just saying I bounced off it. Whoa. Okay.
No, but what it struck me as though, because I've got a Microsoft Surface tablet, and it worked pretty well on that as far as because the way that the controls were spaced out around the screen, it had like a tablet intended UI on it. And I don't know, did you make it for mobile as well?
Yeah, that's right. It started its life as a cross-plat thing, and I just wanted to learn how to code. So that was all it was. If it was anything more than that, then it was just pure luck.
So,
I
like,
guess.
if I wanted to learn how to code, that's all I have to do is just make a game like Star Nomad 1. Because I mean, I can't do that. Okay, I'm gonna need you to hold my hand while I do that because, I actually speaking of my Surface Split, I just installed Unity on it earlier this week, and I've been screwing around with C#. Yeah, I'm sick of it, man. It's like there's like 8-year-old kids that can like run a circle around me coding, and I was like master of Pascal back in the day, and it's useless now.
Wow,
so,
Pascal. Wow, you're dating yourself, man.
Turbo Pascal, because I could do it twice as fast.
Turbo. Oh shit, was that? Remember the computers that had the turbo button? Remember that?
Yes.
Ooh, I can go from 4.77 megahertz.
It's almost like taking the emergency brake off in your car. It's just like, wow, I released the brakes. Look how faster I am.
So
my favorite gaming memory is on a 286 playing Wing Commander.
Oh yeah.
With a Sound Blaster card too.
Oh yeah, well, probably the first Sound Blaster card. I'm guessing the OG Sound Blaster. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had an Amiga at the time, and the best that we could do was there's this game called Epic. Ocean made it or published it. I don't know who did.
I believe they published it, but yeah.
like the best that the Amiga could do. Although we had a really good sound chip, and then to hear PC gaming to me always was like CGA and EGA graphics, and it was terrible because like all the colors were nasty pastel colors, and it was like you had your lime green and your sky blue and purple. Man.
By the 90s we had SVGA, man. Slow down.
Oh man, I know. Right, 320 by 200, rocking. But anyway, so I went over to the next door neighbor's house, and he had Wing Commander and had the whole sound blaster and everything. And I heard the music come out, and I was just like, "Damn, it's time to get a PC." And that's kind of what turned the corner for me was that. And then when Doom came out, it was just like, all right, it's over. I gotta, because Wing Commander did actually come out on the Amiga. It's shocking the shit that came out. Yeah, Wing Commander came out. XCOM came out on the Amiga.
Wow.
A lot of stuff came out, but the Amiga was like dead, and everybody had forgotten it by that point. But some of those things actually, they were like the last trailing releases. But I remember my Amiga 500, and I even put an accelerator chip in it, so it was basically overclocked because it had like an 8080 CPU in it. And
accelerator chip.
Or 68,000. It had one of those. But there was a chip that you would piggyback on top of this thing, and it would like double the clock of the CPU. And it could handle it. There's no cooling problems back then. And so it would run twice as fast as factory spec, and Wing Commander was still like a slideshow. It was just like, oh my god. So then I was just like, all right, we're done here. I got to have Wing Commander. Bought a PC. And I bought Wing Commander, X-Wing, and TIE Fighter all in the same day.
Oh, blowing the mind. Shit.
Exactly.
I must have, wow. All at the same time. I don't know if I could have handled that much gaming goodness all at once.
Yeah, that was the day one purchase, and the joystick that had 2 buttons, not one, but 2 buttons.
2 whole buttons.
I know, right?
Folks,
but anyway, go on.
Folks, we're just waxing nostalgic about late 80s, early 90s computer gaming. Don't mind that.
Yeah, and then you get Xbox's controller today, the Elite controller that has like 1,500 like triggers on it, and
that thing is $150, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the trigger when you spend that much. It triggers me.
That's amazing. Anyway, so Huy, was the first Star Nomad? Was that your first game that you had programmed?
It was my second. My first one is little ninja RPG game that I did to test some RPG coding.
Oh, okay. Was that ever released?
Yeah, it's on Apple and Android.
Oh wow!
Cool.
What's it called?
Ninja Go.
Ninja Go.
Ninja Go.
Girl, like
girl.
female.
I apologize. I'm gonna look up that right now on my tablet here. But anyway, so you say you didn't really like the first Star Nomad, and I'm sorry to hear that. But what did you learn about the experience from the first Star Nomad that you brought into the second that made it honestly such a much better game?
I think just really the basics of coding. I mean, there's lots of features that I wanted, because Space Sims is traditionally a very complex genre, right? And at the time, I'll give you an example, just a minimap, real-time update positioning thing, yeah? At the time, I couldn't figure out how to code it. So I said, well, no minimap.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I think I remember there was no minimap. It was a little confusing.
Yeah, but I got nav icons to work, yeah.
No, it was a gameplay feature. It increased the mystery.
Exactly. You didn't know where the enemies were, so sometimes you just wander right into a whole pack of them.
Yeah, well, there was a thing. I was listening to the 3 Moves Ahead podcast this morning, and Bruce was talking to this guy about board games, not even computer games. But the guy had made a bunch of hex map games, and now that I'm actually screwing around with coding a little bit, and I got to thinking, like, if I did a game and it was on a hex map on the screen, like, as far as just calculating pathing around that, it was just bending my head of how the heck would I even do that, Like, would you brute force it? Just like look at every possible place you could go and try to draw the shortest line to it, or I don't know. It's just trying to get my head around that process, and then because ultimately there's a game. It's what is that? The Vanguard Prophecy. It's Starhammer.
Yeah.
Starhammer Tactics. So the thing that I'm in love with about that game is it's a turn-based game, but it gives you an arc out in front of your ship, and you can drag your destination. It's a ghost of your ship, and you can drag it anywhere in that arc, and that's your possible movement zone. And I'm just looking at that pretty wedge that he calculates out there, and it's just like, my God, how would I even draw that? Just to calculate, like, just to come up with an equation that I could do it on graph paper, not even in code, and it just makes my brain swell up and hurt. So, it must be a secret.
Well, yeah, back to earlier when you were talking about you learning Unity. I mean, if you want to learn the code, develop for mobiles is a good way to start because it's very limited. I mean, you can't really design very complex games per se. So the feature set's already toned down, so you keep it simple for yourself.
Yeah, like if I could make a game where you just bang two rocks together, that would be okay. That's, call it like Caveman MOBA or something. But yeah, I'm going to start small, that's for sure. I had written back in, in the way back, like I had a Texas Instruments, TI-99 back in the day, and I wrote like RPG games for that thing, and you only had 16K RAM, and I managed to cram some stuff in there. I wrote like a little roguelike. It would randomly generate a map, throw some like potions and monsters in there. Yeah, that wasn't too bad, because you were dealing with a grid. You weren't dealing with like arcs and things, and so it's like I should have paid more attention in geometry class, I think.
Well, yeah, we all start from somewhere, I guess.
But yeah.
But you seem to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just the thing of like trying to catch up, because I know, like the basics of like conditional logic and case statements, things like that. Yeah,
that's all you need, really. I mean, Jim, it's never a better time for you to catch up than now.
Yeah, because it finally got a little bit saner to do, and with the object-oriented stuff, and there's so many modules out there, first off, that you can probably just download and integrate, and that way you're not having to figure it out yourself. There's a particular roguelike, it's I think it's called Brogue, and whenever you download it, you get the source code, and it's not even in C++, it's just straight C, and I was reading through that. And I think maybe it is ++, because there is some objects looking stuff in there. But I was reading through it, and I'm just like, I don't know C, but I can read this. It's not bad. And like whenever I was working on Apollo, crack it open. Well, it's C#, but I can read it. I wouldn't be able to create it, but if I'm looking at it, I can tell you what it does. That's kind of a step.
If you're unaware, Jim helped work on a game called Apollo 4X that came out.
I was nowhere near. I don't know that at all. I deny all knowledge of.
It came out last year. It should not have been called 4X. We're just going to leave it there.
Yeah. It wasn't everything that I'd hoped it would be, but it was kind of not in my hands. So
you did learn quite a bit from the experience.
I did. Well, that was the whole thing. Is I went into that deal kind of as let's figure out what the PR side of this stuff is and see if I can help these guys. And as I did what I could, but it was definitely a learning experience. I've learned a lot of stuff about all aspects of that. So
yeah, that's
just
the most important thing.
Not the hands in the code, but everything else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all about learning. I mean, it's a journey, because if you want to get into game dev, expecting success is very, well, I guess foolish. I mean, if it happens, it happens. But the most important thing is what can you learn from your process.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, I could see being an indie dev as a hobby project, and then you sell the game, and that's part of the hobby, right? Is if you sell it, then that's the actual fruition of it. Not necessarily that you become an independent income from game development, although some people actually manage to do that. but it, for me, it would just be like, can I get it in the market, and do people not hate it? Okay, I win. I did something, which is my eventual goal. I'll get something out there and hope to not be stoned to death by the customers. But it's it's that thing. But I look, if you read some of that god awful rant that I put in the forum, around Christmas, it's the thing of trying to figure out with how many games are coming into the market on a weekly basis, and I started a column, and I was just like, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just track like what games came out this week and just talk about them. And then it's like 10, 20 games every week, and it's like, oh my God, I can't even do that. So I look at the consumer and the amount of fatigue the consumer has to have of looking at that and trying to make choices about what they want to buy or what. And, and it's kind of like, I like to have a lot of choice, right? But I think there's a point where like too much choice is really a detriment to the market. And it's if I was releasing a game that I was actually hoping to like make a living wage off of at this point, I would be discouraged. Let's say.
Well, I gotta ask, from a game development standpoint, how much coding did you know when you did Ninja Girl? That was your first one?
Yeah, nothing, absolutely zero.
And how long did it take you to make it?
6 months.
6 months. Translating
including the art, and that took the longest time. Just the art and all the animation, because I had to teach myself how to draw as well.
Interesting. So, are you artful by nature? I mean, is that?
No.
Okay. I mean, I'm asking from a curiosity background for those like that are curious about this kind of stuff who might be tempted not to get into it. So
I'm actually a scientist by background, so now everything is all new to me.
Oh, cool. So I went
cool.
I went to YouTube and I looked for Ninja Girl game, and it comes up. The first thing is like a half naked ninja girl, and it says Shinobi Girl sex game eroge hentai gameplay, and I'm like, oh God, Huy, no.
Actually, there's like 3 or 4 Ninja Girls on the at least the Play Store, because that's what I looked up.
I'll send you guys the link.
No, I found it by looking up Half Geek Studios. That's how I found it.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you though, but translating that knowledge from what you learned from the first game you made to Star Nomad and Star Nomad 2, was the process better, or were you able to then incorporate new ideas because of that? So like, how long did it take you to do the next 2 games?
Yeah, let's see. I finished Ninja Girl, and I had to port it to Apple, which is a slow process. And after that, I started right away on the genre that I really like, which is Space Sims. I mean, I made Ninja Girl thinking that let's make a game for the masses, right? Because I don't really like that kind of game. It's a good way to learn, and I was assuming that's what mobile gamers would like. So I said, why not? Okay, so let's do it. And then that didn't work out, right? I've had 10 copies sold all that time on that game. So I said, well, if I'm going to do something, I should do something that I really like in a genre that I like. So in case if it fails, at least I can play it, right? So then I decided to make a Space Sim. But then a lot of the features in Space Sims were really, it's overwhelming for a newbie at coding. So I had to tone down everything, and so it ended up being a very arcade Space Sim. You could say it's castrated. I have no problems with that. But a lot of people actually did enjoy it on mobiles, so I was very glad with that. All the things that I've learned from the first Star Nomad, it's really just the coding side of things, not really features or things like that. I mean, confidence is the most important thing as well. I mean, it really allows me to set a bigger ambition. A lot of features that I think would be very difficult to implement. Before I would have said, no, it's not going in. But this time I said, well, let's do it. Let's not make excuses. Let's just make it happen. So confidence is the biggest thing.
Yeah, because one of the most impressive things about this new game, Star Nomad 2, is how much, like, if you just looked at it at first blush, it would kind of look, it looks a little like asteroids with other ships. Like, I'm just flying around and shooting. But no, there's all kinds of shit going on underneath. There's like a full-blown life simulation almost going on underneath with, like, struggles in this system and a siege in that system, and that system needs medicine, and that system is under attack from pirates. And
Brian, are you saying that it's everything that I wish that Braben and company had done with Elite? Is that what I hear?
I
think that's what you're saying.
If you wanted 2D top down, then yes, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
but
so.
I'm just saying the whole background sim thing. Instead of power play, I wish we'd have got this, where it's like planets are like, hey, we're in trouble, we need this, and then when you do that, then you get standing with them, and you get access to better ships and things.
In this genre, one of the pet peeves of mine is I love to do space trading, but usually space trading is just hauling shit A to B.
Right.
You make some profit. Nothing really changed. I mean, it's a very static universe. I mean, okay, yes, they need food, right? And then you give them food. Okay, well, what then? What happens, right? So that's the first thing I did was I thought, well, how to build a game around an economy that actually responds to your actions or inactions.
And you really seem to have done that. Like when I tried playing as a trader, I did not pick up on the fact that I should have gone to this system that needs medicine with some medicine. I was still trying to look at the. I gotta say, one thing I love about the game is that I can hover over this commodity. It tells you what the prices are in every system in the sector.
Are you saying like what I wish that Elite had done?
I was going to say what Jim wants.
I'm sorry. I'm going to just record myself saying that, and you can play it on loop the whole rest of the show.
No,
because
you need to make a soundboard with a button, and that's all.
Well, and the other thing is too that you have. Okay, so traditional game thing, the carrot on a stick that you get the player invested in. Okay, I want to advance through here, and a game like Elite, the only thing that's there is money. And like Brian said, you start looking at the map and you're like, all right, where can I buy this low and sell it high? What's the thing that I can haul that's going to do the most for my wallet? And you don't realize right away, like, oh, well, there's this whole karma thing with the planets, and if I go there and I take care of their problems, then that is the gateway to get approval that lets me buy better things on the market. Because exactly. in an RPG. Which this is almost RPG-ish. It's you don't have stats and stuff for your character, I don't think, but it's there's an advancement like that, right? So in an RPG sense, you would have like there's experience, and experience every so much, then you go up a level, which is often a gateway to what equipment you can use, which is kind of like the standing with the planets here. But then, you would have like, you drop a sword that's not normal, right? It's like a sword that's +1 or +2 or whatever. So you can reward the player with things like that are unique items. And that's a problem in a lot of the games that we're seeing, is that the money is the only commodity. There's one currency, and that's cash. So the only thing I'm going to do is what makes me the most dollars per minute. Mm-hmm. And then the game gets really a grind, because you're just grinding for that one thing. Whereas here, you give a motivation for, let me study the map and see what's going on. And also, time passes. So you might buy a lot of food and try to get it over to that planet where starving's going on, but other traders will take care of that before you get there if it's too far. You have to be quick about it. So there's a lot of things to think about. And it's not just, who's going to buy this for the most. Yeah, and I like that.
I think my favorite thing about the game and UI is a big thing with me. I'm a big proponent of good usability and good UI. And the fact that you have melded several components of a UI into the map, like news and a system's needs, and you just look at all that at a glance, I got to say that's brilliant.
Well, and it's also whenever you listen to the other ships, and it's nice that whenever a ship's talking, you actually put a little radio thing around them, so I know who said it. But the other ships will give you hints, and it's like, well, instead of having like a loading screen tip that pops up, the other pilots just say it. It's like, hey, you should probably look into doing this.
Yeah,
I heard
actually,
there's money in that.
Yeah, you can also contact them directly. You target them and press tab. You can bring up a menu of what to say. You can ask for tips or you can insult them as well. It's not a really well documented feature because I tend not to hold players' hands and show them everything. I rather they just discover it by themselves.
Yeah, because I didn't realize even now that you could just target any ship and do that. I thought it was only the ones that had the, they would have a ring around them, like come over here and talk to me. And
Oh yeah, yeah. You can even ask them to surrender if you really like hammering them and they're about to die. You can demand the surrender and they'll drop the cargo and pay you a ransom.
oh, neat. Okay, so the only thing that I need is cooperative multiplayer in Star Nomad 3, and I think we're good.
Well, a lot of people said it would be great co-op or multiplayer, but the problem is I'm only one guy, and time is the thing that's limiting for me. Not really resources. I've got resources. I just lack the time to implement it. So when you do multiplayer, it's not a whole ball game. So in terms of complexity and time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
I just like to casually throw that out there like I'm dumb. Like, oh, you just download that multiplayer module off the Unity store, right? And then you're fine. Yeah.
This does run on Unity, right? Is that what this runs on?
No, it actually runs on Google's Chromium engine, the same thing that you use your browser with. But
oh wow,
it's got
what?
Really?
It's
got hardware
what?
acceleration. Oh yeah, because Google Chromium actually is really compatible with most GPUs. So and it's also multi-threaded for rendering. So it's actually a really powerful engine.
I think
fascinating. I just learned something new. Holy
I know.
crap.
I honestly, Huy, I think this might be the first game that we have had on this show that uses Chromium. Just about every game we bring on here uses most of them use Unity. A few use a few other things like Unreal and whatnot. But I mean, I don't think we've ever had a game on here that used Chromium. I didn't even.
Chromium is free.
How does that port to mobile platforms? Is that something that's just a no problem, or is it kind of different?
Language-wise, it'll port just fine to Apple and Android, but obviously the UI will need complete reworking, right?
Yeah. Right, but there's actually a Chromium, not just the browser, but that engine will just run on whatever.
On Android,
okay.
On Android 5 Plus, the basic engine itself is Chromium for the whole Android, right? And for Apple they have this engine called Nitro JIT, so just in time. And what it does is it takes the JavaScript code that the game is built on and Chromium runs, and it compiles it into native Apple code so that it runs really fast on Apple. Actually, a lot faster than on Android.
Oh my god. Wow, guys, we really learned something new tonight. So what was the first game built on then? Was that also Chromium?
The same, yeah.
Really? Wow. Okay, I'm kind of floored, like, because I'm.
This is like Sesame Street for adult gamers. Like I'm learning by the minute here.
I know.
This episode is brought to you by the letter S for space
and the letter C for Chromium.
That's what I said before.
We really should have a letter sponsor every week.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, there's never really a good time to catch up for you, Jim. I mean, now is the best time to catch up because we have so many options.
It's true, Unity and not apparently Chromium, and
I mean, it's not even like most people when they think of game dev, you code in C+ or C Sharp, etc. But these days, most of the engines are really drag and drop. Very, very visual programming. I mean, because Unity has this plugin called Playmaker, and it's kind of like a flowchart programming. And Unreal Engine 4 has also a similar thing they call it Blueprint. But all the major engines have a visual programming model, so you don't really need coding per se.
Yeah, but that's why it got too easy, and then the Steam market turned to shit. Is because they let just anybody make games.
I don't think the Steam market's turned to shit. I mean, I don't believe in the apocalypse, all that talk. I mean,
yeah,
you still have to go through Greenlight. And
hey, I'm making a good living off that apocalypse hysteria, so you can't discount that.
Yeah,
I'm selling tinfoil hats to everybody.
yeah, you still have to go through Greenlight, and some studios and some devs they do a very shady thing for Greenlight. I mean, they give away free keys or they basically bribe for votes. But
Yeah.
most developers are quite honest, so they go through Greenlight naturally, and games that do it naturally are actually quite good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
because
think
it actually
sorry.
acts like the filter it's intended to be at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although House Shower with my dad's simulator made it through, and now the earth-shattering What's Under Your Blanket. Yeah, I'm gonna give everybody in the audience is getting a free copy of What's Under Your Blanket tonight. Just look under your chairs. No, I'm not Oprah. Never mind.
I'm trying to remember the name of the game I bought today. It's only 59 cents, and I think it actually went through. It might have gone through Greenlight. What the fuck is
Alpha
it?
Xylon went through Greenlight.
Oh, did it? Well, no. This game is called Kiwi Toilet and Shotgun. That's the name of the.
I can't even. Hold on, I gotta look that up.
It's a top-down, randomly generated car combat game
with a toilet and a shotgun.
There's definitely a shotgun. I haven't seen a toilet yet. I of course bought it. I mean, car combat, random generation. Speaking of random generation, it doesn't look like the universe is randomly generated. Am I wrong on that, Huy?
No, you're right. At the base level, the planet and systems are static.
But there are other things that are generated, like the faction standings and.
Oh yeah, I mean at the start, all the AI fleet and the position and the strength composition, their economies of each world is randomly simulated. So give each game a different start.
Oh. See that's a great mix, because when you start with something people know, like the map, that's kind of comforting. Like I know the general outline of the map, but then you like randomize everything else. So it's like a good compromise between pure random, like procedural generation, and having something a little more static that people can cling to.
But even if the whole thing was static, there's multiple ways to solve the problem that's going on there.
And it's great.
Because you can just pick one of the sides and just be like, all right, I'm going to be with these guys this time or whatever. So, Huy, can you explain a little bit about what's going on with the factions in the game and how your standing with the factions actually changes what's going on the map and that? Because I don't think even I understand what's all going on there. I know it's you can build up to a certain amount of faction with each of them, but at some point you have to pick and choose an allegiance, right? And then from that point on, it's like you and those guys against the other two.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at the basic level, it's actually an economic simulator, because each world that a faction owns has an economy, and the wealth that it generates goes to that faction for them to build ships. So when they move ships around, when you see on a star map that they're attacking here, they're defending there, those ships are not spawning out of nowhere. They actually use the economic power of the worlds that they control to build those ships. So when you help a faction or when you cripple a faction economically, it affects their military strength and how they wage wars. So that's
okay. Do they actually, is one planet more predominant about producing ships, or they each produce them at the same rate?
All ship production occurs at the homeworld, but they get resources that they ship there to produce the ships.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so each game has 4 factions that take up around a quarter. At least they start in like the corners of the map.
Yes.
If I recall, but they can move in on each other. It looked like, at least when I was playing, it looked like they can take systems from each other.
Oh yeah, they'll do it by themselves if you leave them alone. You can let the universe run, like a simulation, run overnight, for example, and you wake up in the morning and it'll be completely different. So it's pretty much randomized based on all the events, how their economies are doing, and their economies are affected by piracy, by surpluses of goods or shortages of goods, by Zerkers that come and just kill all the ships. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so could I just make a beeline at the beginning of the game? If nobody dislikes me, could I just go to the enemy homeworld and just start raising a ruckus right there, or are they going to put enough stuff up to kill me right away? Because that's where all the ships spawn from, right? So do they keep like big battleships there all the time? Like that's the toughest ships will always be there.
Yeah. At the homeworld, there's always a big patrol, including a capital ship, at least one.
Okay. So me and my merchant freighter that I start with are not going to survive long if I go there.
Oh, no way.
That's one thing I do want to point out about the game is it is wicked hard whenever you start out, because I was telling Brian before we started here that I started out as a trader, and for some reason I was doing it wrong or whatever, but I was trying to get my faction up to 200 so that I could at least buy one of the fancier ships from the guys that you start near, and whoever that is that has Drybone and those other planets up there. So I was trying to get favor with them, but for some reason I just wasn't building the favor with them to get it over 200, even though I was trying to do the medicine runs and stuff. So I was finding that to be kind of difficult. Well, the first couple hours I didn't even realize I was supposed to be doing that, and then I noticed oh yeah, I need if I want that ship I have to have 200 standing, and if I want this other ship I have to not only have the standing but I have to have certain minerals. And are the minerals you go out and mine those, or do you get them somewhere? Because I know there's asteroids around the periphery that you can mine, but I don't know if those specifically give you those resources that you need for the ship or other things.
They give you mining is a good way to play as well. It's a bit passive, but and potentially dangerous. The location of the asteroids are randomized with each game, so there's a seed. And when you explore the systems, if you stumble upon rare asteroids, they give you a lot of the rare ores that you need.
Yeah, and you can tell by the appearance of the asteroid what kind of ore it's going to give you, right?
Yeah,
I really wish that in Elite they would do that because all the asteroids look the same.
What?
Okay, go ahead.
We talked about this, Jim. We talked about this.
Back to your trader. How it works is you get notified if you manage to ship enough goods that they need to resolve a crisis. They'll notify you on a little message and say, "Oh, congratulations, you've managed to beat your rivals."
It's maybe not one shipment of food. I might have to repeat the trip until they get satisfied.
It depends on the severity of the crisis. The game doesn't tell you exactly. It has two. Well, in words it tell you approximately like it's really dire or it's just a little crisis. But then when you play, the first time you resolve a crisis, you know approximately how much you need to fix a certain level of crisis. Because I just describe the severity in words. I don't say you need X numbers, you need Y number of that, etc. Because I don't like it that way. I mean, it's too much hand holding. I would say.
I did kind of love how the game doesn't tell you everything. Like, oh, if you click on your gun, that turns the manual. Oh, like shit like that.
Some things I tell you, but some things I'd rather not. I'd rather you discover it on your own.
Yeah, there was a tooltip about hit Control 1, 2, 3 to turn the gun's manual.
Oh, was there?
There was.
Yeah, tutorial.
I must have missed that. I was like, wait, guns manual. So there's lots of little. It's just how much work went into the underlying. I don't know if life engine is the right word, but the simulation that goes on under the hood.
When you set that up, did you build the sim and then just leave it run without interacting with it for a long time and just see what happened?
Yeah, I do a lot of iterations on the AI in the sim, and I just let it run overnight and see what happens. I check my log and see that it behaves as it should, or sometimes it actually surprises me. I'll give you one example. Because I teach the AI to try to prioritize who is the bigger threat, right? In terms of the factions when they fight each other.
Right.
First, they like to gang up on a weaker target, right? So you have two sides that just gang up on one, and then when they start poning that side, and then suddenly the two allies who were ganging up on the other guy, they suddenly realize that, oh crap, if the other guy is dead, right, then we have to fight each other, right? So they actually then reanalyze the situation and saying, well, we better stop doing that. we better, they'll fight amongst themselves rather than continue to murder and annihilate one faction.
Oh, so it sort of seeks balance that way.
It tries to, because it's self-preservation.
So, as the player, can you have enough influence to throw that balance out to where it's they're clearly winning, and
of course.
but do they then struggle against you specifically? Like both of the enemies will team up against your faction because they see like the players over here.
If you help your faction get powerful, the other two will notice that and they'll start ganging up on you.
Oh wow.
And you can help or you can harm a faction through trade or through combat. So that's one of the important things that I wanted for the game, that a merchant should actually be a fearsome force. In most, I guess in reality, wealth is power, right?
It's true.
Yeah, so in games, we tend to always be focused on combat to project power. But here in this, I made sure that a merchant can heavily influence how the state of the factions are. Because if you trade with a planet, you actually increase the economy so that they produce more resources and more wealth for the faction. They have more ships, right? If you smuggle drugs on a planet and you cause all the population to be drug addicts, you actually cripple the economy. And then that planet is now stuffed. And that economy doesn't generate anywhere as much resources for that faction. So they become slightly weaker. Now, if you repeat that on multiple planets, you can completely wreck a faction.
So can you use like drug smuggling and stuff to soften up a planet for an invasion?
Yes.
Well, so that's interesting because that sounds like Star Trek with the Dominion and like the way they would use the drug to control their army.
The Jemadar,
yeah. So you can actually. Well, what happens with a planet if I screw them up with drug addiction? Because the ships from the Empire will still come there and defend it, right? But does it not? Oh, okay, gotcha.
Wow. Yeah. So each planet has a local militia that they generate from their wealth. So if it's prosperous, they'll have more ships. If they're suffering, they'll have less ships. So that's the local patrols that you see, and the big fleets tend to ignore your little skirmishes until you provoke them enough so that they do send a fleet to deal with you. Otherwise, they tend to ignore the little smaller things. They more worry about the other two factions invading their worlds.
Oh, okay, so the computer for your friendly faction, it just kind of observes where you're doing things and takes advantage of it. It doesn't really coordinate with you, right? Because I know you can have your own squad of guys that follow you around that you hire.
Yeah, the way it is your allies initiate the fight somewhere and you go help them. One of the things I added was the ability for the player to help decide where the ally should send the fleets to attack. So you can actually take your squad and you go to a foreign planet and invade them. You destroy the local patrols, and your allies will see that, and they'll say, "Oh, maybe we can have a chance," right? So they'll send us really small strike force to help you capture that place, but they'll still keep most of their forces to defend their own worlds.
Oh, that's cool. And hopefully someday I'll live long enough in the game to actually see that, because well, that there's one thing about the design that you have here is you have 3 difficulty levels, right? So you can play it on hardcore roguelike, and if you die, you're through. Or you can play like a medium level where, okay, you die, you're going to lose some things, you lose the ship and get set back a little bit, but you're not completely screwed. And then you can also play it on just like a fairly casual, I use casual in air quotes because it's still pretty darn hard, but the more casual mode where it's just like, okay, you died, you go back to the last planet you docked at, and you've got your cargo and everything. It's just you get teleported away from wherever you were, and and that's enough if you're deep in enemy territory to get bounced all the way home. But it's I like that you give the variety of that level so that people don't get completely frustrated with the thing, or people that enjoy pain can dial it up.
Yeah, because one of the things I learned from the first game is that it's also quite brutal, and It's because I like my games hard, and to me, when I play it, it feels okay, but to most, it will be really hard. So I knew that. So I designed this game predominantly on roguelike for myself, but I knew that I had to have other difficulty modes for other players.
Right. Yeah, because I played it on normal and I still found it a challenge, which is good. I wanted to find it a challenge.
Yeah, that's why it's called normal and not easy. There's no easy mode.
which is pretty damn great, actually. I do.
Yeah, it should be measured in tiers. It's like, how many tiers do you want? 1, 2, or 3 tiers?
I want all the tiers you can muster. There's just so much impressive stuff going on here, and like, the more I'm learning about it, the more I'm like, I should tell people who love economic games, because at first blush, just looks like your Void Expanse, your Drox Operative, your top-down, mostly combat-focused game. But from talking to you and playing it and stuff, it's like, no. This is an economic game that just happens to have combat.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Because when I built the game, I built it around the economy. So the economy was the first thing I did.
Oh my gosh!
You could actually sell a game.
I didn't think of the Euro Truck Simulator in space when I did this. I mean, that's my only regret.
But it's changed now. We're no longer preaching Euro Truck Simulator. We want Railroad Tycoon in space.
Well,
yeah, that's good
but
too.
You're almost there.
Nothing wrong with both. I mean, if we can get both, why make us choose? Why make us choose one or the other, Jim?
That's true. Well, honestly, with the background sim and stuff and the ships fighting and that, it's almost like you could make like Space Ant Farm and you just run it and watch it, and it would be entertaining.
Didn't they make a game like that though? But it didn't have spaceships in it though. It was like a universal sandbox. You could just like let the galaxy go.
Yeah, I think it was actually called Universe Sandbox. Yeah,
but you can fly around and look at stuff and that. But yeah.
Yeah, game...
What's cool is you can play with the physics in it, right? So it's just like, let me drop some asteroids here, and we'll see what that, and then you really quickly understand why the solar system's formed the way it is.
Yeah, I think the closest comparison you could sell this game to, and I've been trying to sell it, is Space Rangers. Like, it's a real time Space Rangers without the stupid real time strategy portion.
That gives me a thought. Speaking of Space Rangers, because it made me think Star Rangers, which is actually Star Raiders rebooted. So you could do a top-down Star Raiders, right, where it's just aliens are invading. You've got planets wherever, and you have to just rush around and deal with it, right?
I would play the fuck out of that. Yeah, someone make that.
Yeah, you could build it with this engine pretty easy. So that would be interesting.
Yeah, someone make that happen, please. That'd be great.
We can think of about 20 different things that you can do with this engine with minor modifications, where you can just multiply your money.
Seriously, like you could just. It seems like you can just add a few things, and all of a sudden this is Space Bucks. Like a new Space Bucks.
Yeah, it's possible. I made it to be expandable, so I've been adding a lot of features in updates. So
yes,
there's more to come.
Oh, like what?
Stuff.
I want to know.
He's not going to tell you. It's going to be a secret.
I doesn't hurt to ask.
Well, one of the things I originally wanted was for the player to set up their own faction, but I didn't fit it in time.
Is that coming?
Well, I'd like to. I mean, yeah, why not?
I would actually pay for that as an expansion. That sounds like a big enough deal that you could probably charge like $1 or $2. Big. Yeah, you could probably charge like $1 or $2 for that, to bolt that on to the rest of the game. I would pay for that. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like you become the leader of the faction, and you can dictate where ships go. You can dictate what your homeworld is building, what ships, and you can research new tech. You can order merchants to run here and there to make profit for you. More like I guess you could say a management type aspect.
you're going to give Unending Galaxy a run for its money if you keep doing this sort of thing. Oh my God. If you couldn't tell, Huy, we're a little bit in awe of this game because it's really unassuming. You just look at it and it looks so unassuming. It's got the graphics are cute, the interface is very efficient and it's not too in your face. There's not a lot to it, which is good. But then you hear about all this background stuff that's gone on. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, the interface. I got a lot of criticism for that because I
Really?
don't actually know how to make a good looking interface. I think I only know how to make a functional interface.
Who
and
cares?
people have problems with the interface when it looks so basic.
But it's
I'd rather have a functioning interface
Yeah.
that worked instead of having a good-looking interface that didn't.
Yeah,
Me too.
Yeah, I'd much rather have something functional and usable than something pretty like if we want to go the complete opposite direction, we can have X Rebirth, where sure it looks nice, but what the fuck? In terms,
Yeah, exactly. Pretty only gets you so far when you're stupid.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly, and that game is like that's a real good personification of that game, Jim. Because
I mean, there's
that
cute but ditzy, and then there's just offensively stupid, and I can't be in the room with that game. That's all I'm saying.
It's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, it's a very pretty game. Very, very pretty. Now, if you could like mix the the efficiency and economy of this game with the prettiness of, I need a minute. I'll be right. I need a minute. I'm sorry, I'm kidding. But
Is Vaclem.
But yeah, we are really just kind of in awe as to how deep this goes. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not. I don't say this to be insulting or anything. When you just first look at it, it doesn't look like a deep game. It looks like a lot of.
That was the intent. That was actually the intent.
Really?
I didn't want to overwhelm people with all the depth. I think it backfired in some ways because the people who like depth, they overlook it because of that reason. And I've got some criticism that says, "Oh, this game is so simplistic," but they only play 30 minutes, right, or 1 hour. So the other problem with the game that I've learned now is a little bit of progression should be quicker to give them that complexity. Like you don't get your first squad member until after a while,
Right.
So your combat options are limited. You don't get new ships until a while. Again, I mean, you're limited by your noob ship. I mean, I think you're stuck in your noob ship for too long. Looking back at it now.
Well, you could actually put a fourth option on the menu, which is just like fast start. So you just jump the player up into like, here's a taste of what you'll get if you play this legit. And, almost like a tutorial thing where it's like, okay, you can't advance out of this ship, but I'll start you with a pretty cool ship and some wingmen. And, then if you actually want the advancement thing, then, play it for real.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That is a solid idea.
Well, a lot of games, like RPGs especially, JRPGs in particular, they'll start you as like you're super powerful, right? It's like, all right, you're Batman and you got all the toys for the first level, and then you lost them all, and you have to get them back. But at least you know what you're going to be whenever you get there, and it gives you the incentive to kind of, find that Batarang. But anyway, yeah.
No, you're probably not wrong. I mean, I didn't feel like I've played for a couple hours now at least. And I didn't feel like I was being curtailed. I didn't feel like it was too slow. I didn't.
No, but it doesn't show you the potential of the game right away, and you don't want to risk somebody.
Problem.
You don't want to risk somebody walking away from it before they even know what it is.
Yeah, so. Which I got several people who left negative reviews after half an hour or 1 hour. It's a bit slow for them, I think.
Oh, I mean that.
But on the other hand, I mean, you can never please everybody.
That's true.
All you have to do is make me happy. Just focus on that, and you'll be good. I'm not even a curator here, so kiss Brian's ass.
Recently, I released an update where I add 3 ships. So there's quite a few ships, one of which is a capital carrier. So it's like a really badass ship, right? And I chose to put it only in roguelike mode as a bonus and a reward.
I saw where people freaked out on that.
Yeah, it was actually got a lot of negative comments on the forum. I mean, some guy called me a noob developer for doing that. Yeah, so I don't know. You can't really make everybody happy, I guess. But
no, but if you're making a few people mad, that means you're doing it right.
Yeah.
So if everybody's mad, you're doing it wrong. If nobody complains, then nobody's playing it. So if the fact that we're bitching is a good sign.
Yes, exactly. So I thanked him for taking the time to voice his opinion, because I know most players, most gamers, they wouldn't give a shit. So if they don't like your game, they won't tell you unless they care about it. So I do understand that, so I appreciate their feedback too.
You should have offered to compensate him with a copy of X Rebirth. Just be like, well, if you don't like my game, I can hook you up with something that'll make you appreciate my game.
Yeah, but I mean, because when you're a one-person developer, you don't really get the feedback that you need for. I think it's okay because, in my point of view, hey, I'm adding new ships for free. It's not a DLC. I just want to say thank you to players who play it, and here's some free stuff. And I'll keep on doing that. So I think that's fine. But yeah, the player's point of view is very different. So I mean, that's one of the downsides of being a one-person developer. You don't get that feedback that informs you of what's right and wrong, I guess.
Yeah, so you came out full release with this, right? It wasn't an early access thing or anything, right?
Full release, yeah.
Yeah. So do you think it would have been any different if it had been early access, or do you feel like maybe it would have actually been detrimental to be early access, as you might have got passed over on stuff?
Well, it felt complete to me at the time, so I didn't want to go EA. I mean, when you do EA,
some people use EA as a tactic.
Yeah, I mean, if you do EA, people expect you to your game is to be half finished, I guess, and then you double it. And to me, at the time, it was finished, and anything else would just be a bonus.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of a nice thing, because so many games do the early access route, and I don't mind that, but it is kind of a double-edged sword for developers, it seems. You know, like some gamers burn out on it after early access, and they don't want to play it anymore, and some gamers are way too critical of it in early access, thinking it's a fully released title when it's clearly not.
Yeah, honestly, I like the idea of like, okay, you know what, we're late beta now, and I'm going to put it out early access just for, let's get some feedback and make sure that everything works, because, you know, if you want to take the risk of maybe some late beta bugs, fine, but you know, I really don't dig whenever they throw games out whenever they're like super early alpha and there's nothing but placeholder stuff there, and that I think that's kind of maybe detrimental to the game, because at that point you're just like proof of concept, like, is my idea any good? Well, you know your idea is good, you know, you just need a little help doing QA at the end, right? So before you declare it, you know, you kiss it and say it's done, then you can use that as like a QA thing almost.
Yeah.
But I totally approve of that. I like to see when developers do that. So, you know, I mean, don't discount that or anything. But there's a group, and I haven't really mentioned them on the show, but I was talking to James, who's making Shallow Space, because he was talking about, you know, QA on his thing. So there's a group. It's called Indie QA, and it's run by a guy out of the Netherlands, I think. And anyway, I talked to him one night. So it's a bunch of people that are actually industry QA people, you know, for a living, and they've worked on AAA titles and stuff. Some of them currently are, but in the evening they volunteer to look at indie games and actually write professional QA reports for the developers, and it's free. You just have to contact them through the Steam group, the Indie QA group. So I just want to put a plug out there for them, because, you know, they're doing good stuff, and I referred somebody out to them the other day, so it's just on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I wish Steam did was instead of just having EA, they could do a beta where I mean, you tell players that the game is more finished and they just need a short period of time for bug hunting or a little bit of polish. I mean, that would encourage more players to get into it, I think. Because myself as a gamer, when I see an early access title, I tend to avoid it for the reasons that are quite obvious, that a lot of the games are barely finished and dysfunctional. I prefer to have early access where it's more close to a finished product and players can help test for balance, for bugs, things like that.
And you also have the mystery with a really early game of, is it ever going to get finished, or are they going to walk away from it at some point?
Yeah, exactly.
Which, when we've seen AAA developers walk away from stuff, Schaefer, like, not putting any names out there, Schaefer, but it's. Yeah, so that's kind of the thing where the early access thing has kind of done disservice in the market a little bit, because then it's kind of like, well, do I trust early access or not? But yeah, if you're late beta and you're like, look, man, this is a 95% done game, it's gonna get done. I just need a little help at the end to kind of tidy it up a little bit, and then I'm all aboard on that. But I'm getting really gun shy about stuff that's like, hey, here's this early thing. Do you want to satisfy your curiosity? $20? No, I'll pass. I'm becoming a more discerning shopper, and I look at my Steam list and I'm like, yeah, I got like 1,000 games there. I don't think I need to throw this alpha thing on my heap. But
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I get the impression that the way you feel about it is how most gamers see early access itself. Because I've got some friends who are developers who did early access, and they say pretty much the same thing.
Well, it was exciting at first, but I think, like a lot of things in the market, we've kind of got, the consumer has fatigue of it now. It's just like, it's not the new exciting thing. It's kind of all right, we've seen the flaws, we've seen the benefits, and now we make a different choice. But
it's also a shame that there have been some high profile early access issues.
Schaefer.
Yeah. Let's just say it. What was it called? Space DF9.
Yeah.
That was not only a kick in the pants to early access, but kind of space gaming a little bit, I think, because it's a space game.
Yeah, but that game, The Spatials, came out and was better. All right, so
yeah.
And that's indier than
It's way
I like
indier.
that game.
Oh, it's a great game. It's a fun game. It's a stupid fun game.
Some of those games, it's almost like the indier the better, So I would rather have chunky pixels in something like that. Although I think people are getting chunky pixel fatigue as well, because there was like one particular, like a guy made a set of RPG icons, and they're kind of the ones that are used in Realm of the Mad God, and those things just got abused because everybody that was making some kind of like indie RPG downloaded those things, and there's like 1,000 roguelikes that all look the same. So, but that's the thing. I was talking about that, looking at the source code for that Brogue game. It is shocking how much game is there and how little source code, just because it's all procedurally generated, but it's super tight. It's just tiny code.
I'm looking forward to trying it because me, I love roguelikes. I just have not played that one for some reason.
Yeah, it's a roguelike and everything's in ANSI, but it's animated ANSI. And it's like, wow, how did he do that? So I was looking at the loops and stuff, and it's just like, dang. If you want a lesson on how to animate stuff simply in C or C++, whichever it is, that's a go-to. Like, look at what that guy did. Because
So Brian, when you say you like roguelike, what part of it do you like? What aspect?
He likes the dying part, the dying and crying.
There are a lot of things. I mean, as I get older and I have less time to devote to really long games, one of the great things about a roguelike is because they're so small usually, and because everything's randomly generated, there's a fast pace to it, and you can accomplish a lot in like 10 minutes. Like, I can do one dungeon, or I can do one quest. It's not like Skyrim where, I've got 8 hours to kill. Like I don't play Elite. I'm sorry, Jim. I don't play Elite as much as I'd like to because I don't have 3, 8, 9 hour blocks of free time to play games a lot. And you need that kind of time to play a game like Elite. But with roguelikes, I just got 20 minutes before dinner is ready. I'm going to load up a dungeon. Oh, done. That felt good. I got my fix. It's going to be different because it's randomly generated. So I got my fix that way. And so those are the qualities I love about roguelikes is the quickness, the random generation, the fact that it doesn't take long to feel like you accomplished something. And that is one nice thing about your game. Like you can do a few trade runs or shoot a few pirates in like 10 minutes. Like,
I can get killed like 3 times in 10 minutes if I really...
So seriously, how can you die that often?
It takes effort, but I can do it.
I died quite a bit when playing a merchant because the funniest, you saw this on the video, this is the first time it happened, but the funniest was when like, oh, I forgot to bring along the fee for landing. Whoops. I love that.
Oh yeah, I did that one. I never did it again.
No, I never did it again.
Don't leave home without $500 in the bank.
At least. But it was funny because I'm like, okay, maybe if I help these guys take out the pirates, but stay in the periphery, I'll get some credit for that. And then I'll have enough money to land. Well, that didn't work. It didn't work at all, but it was fun. And it was funny. And I like how the game put me in that situation. There wasn't like a big like, oh, by the way, you need to have this much money to land at a planet. Nope, game didn't tell me that. I found out, and it gave me like a nice little side adventure. A nice little side adventure that I'm still laughing about because like a lot of other games would have held my hand and said, nope, you can't leave unless you have enough money to pay for landing or something like that,
You know how I solved that? I ran over into enemy territory and shot a pirate. Died. Yeah. And then I respawned back on the planet and I was like, okay. Won't do that again.
Yeah, I mean when you're playing in the normal mode, you basically respawn at a... How does that work? Do you respawn at like the last planet you land at? Do you respawn at the last planet, the nearest friendly planet? How does that work?
You usually respawn at the homeworld of a faction that you have the highest reputation or standing with.
Oh, so that's kind of funny because that could be nowhere near where you actually intended to go.
Yeah, I thought it was just the last place you docked.
Once you become an ally of a faction, you always spawn at their homeworld. So.
Oh, that's funny. So can you ally yourself with all the factions? Or almost all of them at least? Probably not like the pirates.
As a merchant, you could up to a certain point, and then they won't recognize your contributions anymore until you formally sign up with them.
Wait, you have to formally sign up with them?
Yeah, you go to the homeworld. When you have enough standing or pilot rep, when you fly by the ships, they always tell you like, oh, hey, we can use your help in our war efforts. So you go to the homeworld and talk to the recruiter and sign up. Yeah. So the other pilots will invite you. So they'll give you these hints.
Wow. So you can actually formally ally yourself with a specific faction.
Yeah, exactly. When you formally ally yourself with a faction, and their ships will no longer hit you with their weapons fire. It'll be configured to avoid hitting you. So there's no more friendly fire from them.
Do you get any special treatment when you join the Merchants Guild other than just access to the database?
At the Merchants Guild, there's some quest lines that random encounters that involve the Merchants Guild as well. If you join them, you might unlock it. But at the moment, they have no special ships or weapons that you unlock because they're part of the Free Union.
So one thing about the game that we haven't really talked about are the random encounters that are kind of FTL-like that you put in there. So how are those generated, and how many varieties of those can you run into?
Well, lots. One of the things I dislike about space games is that travel can be really boring after a while. I mean, sure, it's pretty scenery, things like that, but you need something to keep it fresh. So that system is one of the core feature of the travel mechanics in this game. So there's lots of encounters. There's all kinds of varieties of them. Most of them have multiple outcomes. So you might, in your one playthrough, you might see one particular outcome. In another, you might see something else. I got a bug report on my Steam forum. One of the players said that he ran into a merchant who wanted help with an escort, but then the merchant just jumped out and nothing happened. Right? He thought it was a bug. It's actually not a bug. It's just that's one of the outcomes. The merchant lied, right? He didn't want to pay you. He just leaves like, yeah, whatever. Thanks for the help. I'm out. And the other outcome is he'll pay you a small amount of money, and then there's another outcome which his company, I won't spoil it for you, but yeah, there's multiple outcomes in most of the encounters.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like I ran into a couple of those, and I think my favorite was we've taken this luxury liner hostage, and if you don't work with us, we'll kill all the hostages. And so I'm like, okay, I'll work with you. And the thing blew up. It's like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
You sons of bitches.
They asked you to try to talk the suicide bomber out of the try to blow up the ship, right? So you have like 4 different possibilities of trying to talk him out of it. You can use logic, you can use I guess fear, you can threaten him, but yeah, they all have different outcomes.
So that's and like if you go up in levels, do those become more numerous as you travel the map more, or raise up in levels? Like how does that work?
It's just random, but there's a check in place not to spawn the encounters that are too difficult for low ranked pilots. So there's some of them that you won't see until you progress a bit.
Oh, that's pretty fascinating. So you're always...
Yeah, and I was...
Sorry,
one of the things I made a mistake with at the start, when you spawn a random encounter and they ask you for money or for whatever reasons, like the player didn't have enough money at the time, so there's no point of that encounter, right? So that was something that I overlooked, which I fixed later. So I had to check to make sure you have enough money before I spawn that encounter, right?
Right. Oh.
Little things.
There's tons of little things in here, man. Like, how do you keep track of it all?
Yeah, that's why there's bugs, because a few weeks ago, I was after release, I was still working frantically to fix bugs that beta testers and players find. And my wife goes to me, "What are you doing? Why are you still fixing bugs now?" And she said like really like surprised. So I showed her my PhD thesis. It's a thick book, and I showed her I've got more than 10 times the amount of text and code to this thesis, and if there's one typing mistake, there's a bug. And then she just looks at me. She goes, "Oh," and she walked out of the room and left me alone to fix it. So that was nice.
So have you gotten her to sit down and play the game? Is she like a beta tester for you, or?
No, she doesn't like space games, but she played the Ninja Girl and she beat it. So the balancing was actually all her play testing, but not this game. She doesn't like geeky stuff.
That's pretty funny. Now, I'm guessing it sounds like you have a full-time job beyond making this game. Is that the scientist thing?
No, I quit that a few years back to pursue this career as a full-time job. So I had a lot of savings, and I wanted a different life approach, I guess, or career. So I gave it a shot.
Oh, wow.
So what kind of science did you do?
Molecular biology. I was at a postdoc position in University of Geneva in Switzerland.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I don't think we've ever had a molecular biologist before, so you're the first.
Yeah, I think so, man.
Yeah, it's more of information on my blog, on my page.
Oh, wow. So you do this full-time now?
Yeah, I've been doing it full-time for, I guess, nearly 3 years now, and 3 years was the time that I gave myself to pursue this career. So at the limit of 3 years, I either would make it and pay the bills with my game dev, or I cannot pay the bills and I have to quit game dev and get a normal job. So yeah, 3 years is nearly up.
And
how's it working out?
Well, I'm paying the bills, so it's okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Yay!
And that's why you have to run out now and buy Star Nomad 2.
It's on Steam, my friend.
So that he can make Star Nomad 3.
Because you have to spare this man from a life of science. because
Actually, you'd probably be driving taxi with Uber or something. Because the thing with academic science is once you get out, you don't really get back in.
Oh no! So you took
really they
shit.
cross your name off. They're like, all right,
Yeah,
quit.
exactly. You're some kind of traitor.
There's no Godfather to it. Like, as soon as you think you're out, they pull you back in.
No. When you're out, they'll lock the door, they'll kick you out, and you never come back.
Holy shit!
So when you leave, it's just like you left our club. You're gone.
Exactly. Like
Oh
you're some kind of heathen who wants money or luxuries besides sacrificing your life for science.
Yeah, you're big people or little people. Which one do you want to be?
Well, good for you for taking. That's a tremendous leap of.
It is good to get out of the cult. Like, how long did it take to deprogram after that?
Well, I really enjoyed it when I did my PhD, and
Good one,
I
Jim.
think the reason I enjoyed it because my supervisors were really they gave me a lot of freedom, and that's not normal in academia. It's not normal at all. I mean, normally you're just a worker, you're just a drone, and they tell you what to do. You work for them. It's their ideas, etc.
Yeah, because really, autonomy is the key to job satisfaction for creative people. You know, if you let me solve the problem my own way, especially, you know, it's like science and computer people. It's like we're problem solvers. We want to figure something out. And if you don't let me be creative about that, I'm going to get very frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, my PhD supervisor, I saw him pretty much once a year, just to give him an update on what I've been doing that year. At the start, he just gave me like a goal. I want you to find out how this works, and I leave it all to you. And I love that. I mean, as a scientist, that's what I think everyone should love, because total freedom to explore and learn is something that promotes good science, I feel. But that's not how it works at all in most institutions.
And that's why we can't have good things.
Exactly.
We got to the moon and it was all downhill from there. So, whenever you went into molecular biology and such, though, I mean, it's like, what was your ambition that drove you to do that? Was it just like, this is a field I'm kind of compatible with, you know, an interest in, or did you have an ambition like, I want to do something?
Basically, I wanted to solve world hunger, so it's a small goal. Yeah, world hunger. I'll fix it. That was my ambition when I was younger.
Yeah, I had that goal too. So I went to work at Subway. I was going to do it one sandwich at a time.
Yeah, because there's a lot of problems in third world countries where, you know, I mean, we're in the first world. If some of our farm crops fail for that year, it's fine. We have money to import it, right? But in the third world, they don't really have that luxury. So if their crops are destroyed by pests or destroyed by, frost or salinity, all the things that threaten plant life, if they're wiped out, those people are going to be dead.
Right. Well, and not only that, but some stuff that I was reading about that the Gates Foundation has done. So somewhere in Africa, they have some sort of a parasite, right? And it's you can get rid of it if you just filter the drinking water. But to get the people educated, right? That, hey, if you take a pair of pantyhose and like filter the water through it, you're not gonna die, right? Well, they don't die, but it's a hideously painful internal worm thing. But it's just like, all they got to do is filter the water or boil it, one or the other, and they're fine. But it's like, from the first world, we don't realize that like half the world is living in just not good conditions, right? Because it's so removed from us, we don't think about it. So it's kind of like, education is the tough part, because, you know, if you can explain to people, you know, like, because half the world doesn't even understand microbes, right? Like, wash your hands.
Exactly.
And, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because my background when I was young, I mean, if you Google children swimming in the Mekong River, that's pretty much me when I was young. No joke. So I come from that background, so I have a lot of appreciation for these things. That's why I went into science. in trying to improve the quality of human life.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the way the field is set up, that it's such a frustration that, it's like you get good quality people that want to come in there and make a difference, and then they stifle them, with... Yeah.
I guess in a way it's like politics. I mean, politics and science is very similar in that people will come into that field with good ambitions, but they end up being stifled or crushed.
Yeah, you figure out how limiting the system is once you're in it, and then realize, that what you had thought you would accomplish is being prevented by the mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. It's set up the way it is for certain people to prosper and others to be squashed. That's just the way it is.
Wow, that took a turn.
Well, anyway,
we want to focus on the positive here, like third world.
Are we talking about games, you guys?
Yeah, we were talking about how in the in-game economy you can drive them into starvation by shooting the merchant ships up. But now it's not so fun, is it? Is it, Brian?
Well, there's no happy ending in the game. Players don't really realize it until they beat the game, and the game tells them the consequences of all their actions. And there's no happy endings. Because
really?
If you think about it,
does it give you a head count, like how many people you killed on?
Well, if you think about it, you're choosing a side, and the goal is to commit genocide.
Oh, so you're not bringing people into your faction; you're just killing them.
Yeah, I mean the goal is, they tell you that they want to free these guys or they want to liberate them, but it's just death.
Oh, we've heard that liberty story before. We're from America. We know what we bring. We're coming to liberate you from 30,000 feet. But yeah, that's not to go too political about that, but
and all the
former administration.
All the factions, they're just humans. I mean, there's no aliens in this game per se. You're just fighting humans.
That's some really great stuff though, because like some of the best sci-fi doesn't really have aliens.
The best sci-fi is the sci-fi that makes you think, and the sci-fi that makes you think after you're done with it about what it really meant. So that's pretty interesting to me, right? It's like, okay, you got to the end of this, kind of won, but at what cost, right? So yeah. But now, whenever you take a planet, does it immediately flip allegiance? It's just like your ships have to have air superiority for X number of seconds, and then it's yours. And so does that? How does that impact the population? Is the productivity of the planet reduced for a while until it builds back up, or does it just flip over and it's?
Yeah, the economy suffers after a siege for a period of time, and it slowly recovers based on NPC merchant traffic. So if there's pirates or there's Zerkers nearby, it takes longer for them to recover.
Is there some sort of a graph that shows the prosperity of the planet that you can watch?
There's no graph, but on the star map, if you highlight mouse over each of the planet, it will tell you a description of the economic. So it will say economically stable, economically prosperous, or economically crippled, economically destitute, etc. It'll tell you.
Oh, okay, yeah. It would be interesting. I mean, it's kind of, you're beyond it now, but if you wanted to go back, where if you actually tracked over time what the number was, and then almost have it as a graph where you could show, like, over time, this is what happened with this planet, and this, because the player would visibly be able to see their actions where they altered it'd be almost like looking at the stock market, right, for individual planets. It's like, oh, well, here's where I came to town, and you see it fall like a cliff, because I wrecked the place or whatever, or I boosted this place and look how much I picked it up.
Yeah, I mean, that feature is really, really cool. I mean, one of the things, as I said, I regret at the start is I didn't think about the tycoon aspect of the economy. I mean, I could have gone down that route, quite easily. I think looking back now, I mean, you can manage your fleets, you can send merchants to go here and there, just give them escorts. You have a daily wage system for pilots you hire. I mean, these things would change the game into a tycoon aspect, and I think it would be quite good too in that way. But for some reason, when I designed it, it didn't occur to me to go down that route.
Yeah, but the beauty of it is that you could go down that route and call it Star Nomad 3, and it wouldn't.
Well,
it wouldn't take a lot of, because you've already got the foundation. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, but at the moment I'm pretty fatigued with space because I've done the first one and now this one, so I want a change of scenery.
Oh yeah, you were saying you were going to do something that was like a medieval thing or something. I read what you said. I just don't remember specifically.
Nuclear Nomad. So it'll be a post-apocalyptic survival Mountain Blade. It'd be like Star Nomad 2, more tycoon, more base building, more crafting. Have you guys heard of the games Harvest Moon and Wind Factory?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll have elements of that, and base building, empire management, but also large-scale combat that you can participate.
Are you still going to be like top-down sprite thing, or are you going to move into 3D with this one?
Moving into 3D costs a lot of resources in terms of money, because good 3D models and textures are very expensive. Have you guys heard of that game, Windward?
Windward?
The
yeah.
The sailing game.
Fabulous game,
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, great game for multiplayer. The developer said the assets for that game cost him 45,000 USD.
Holy Jesus.
Wow.
You have to make like 5 sailboat games after that to recoup.
Holy
I mean, when you look at the graphics, it's really simplistic. Low polygon models. I mean, the texture quality is not that great. I mean, it's a very simplistic looking game, and I was blown away by the cost of it. I'm like, holy crap.
Well, and that's the thing about like Star Citizen, right? So $100 million. But if you look at the art assets that are going on in that game, that's why people are concerned. Well, that and hiring actors for the movie thing, which I was shocked. But just the art alone, to pay those artists, and then part of what we overheard was that they had some mixed communications there. So it's like, well, we had the artists make all this stuff, and nobody gave them the memo that we had changed it all. So they did all this work, and then they had to go back, and and then it was just like, and that's when people were like, oh no, they're in trouble. Because they had to go back and redo all the art.
That's just total mismanagement, because 3D art at that level of fidelity for Star Citizen would be ridiculously expensive and time consuming. So if they actually tell an artist, scrap that, like go back to the drawing board and do some new ones, that would just be so expensive.
Right.
Yeah, and that's when people panicked, right? It was one of the artists left and was talking about like, yeah, I left because of this frustration and whatever, and everybody was like, what? So, and then
the game Assassin's Creed, the one in Paris, I think I read an article that one of the artists, she worked on that game for 2 years, full time. Her only job was to build the Notre Dame Cathedral, right, for 2 full years. So when you think about that model and texture, it costs one artist 2 full years' wage, and also all the equipment and on-site costs associated with that. How much would that cathedral cost? It would easily cost at least $200,000 or $300,000.
They could have almost built the real cathedral for what they paid for the art. Yeah.
I mean, 3D games are really expensive. So to answer your question, I'm gonna stick with 2D for a while until I build up the bank.
Well, and honestly, and I'm glad that your answer is that you're going to stick with 2D, because I find that 2D games generally have there's the 2D games that are just really simple and somebody put it together, and then there's the other extreme where you took the time to make a very complex game, but you didn't have the distraction of the art. Where all the time actually went into the bones of the thing, as opposed to just the skin.
As a gamer, most of the games I play these days are indie games with low quality graphics, but the gameplay is just superb. And
Yeah.
at some point, it's kind of like a balance. The more you focus on graphics, the less time and manpower you have to focus on gameplay.
Yeah, like I'm not a big fan of any of the X games. I mentioned this game earlier. But when you get when I got Unending Galaxy, which is like an X game, but top down in 2D, clicked right away. Just there's something about the 2D that just made it so much easier for me.
Yeah, which I've been kind of going. This your game is like the right game at the right time because I've been in a phase for about a month and a half of playing 2D sprite-based top-down things. So, I was playing Nave and Transcendence and Void Expanse and that, and then Brian turned me on to Unending Galaxy, and I was messing around with that, and I was shocked, like because you can much like the X games, you can end up owning factories and setting up routes of supply between your stuff, and instead of having like a character screen, it's got a empire screen, and it means it. If you play the thing far enough in, then the goal is to take over 70% of the map as an empire, and you start with just a ship. So there's depth going on in that thing that is just amazing, and you see a game like the X games, but the 3D stuff adds a layer of complexity, and you just can't see the whole game.
Sometimes the 3D adds to the game, but also can detract from the game as well. It depends on how they do it, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on the game. Yeah, totally depends on the game.
Have you guys played Hotline Miami?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now
well,
to me,
I'll say I played the first. I played the first level. I can't get off of it.
First-person shooter, right? To me, that's the best first-person shooter I played in a long time.
I could not imagine that game in first-person mode. Oh my god!
But it feels like that because even though it's top-down, the franticness of just the gameplay, how tight everything is, it just feels much better than most of the shooters I've played.
Oh, if you like that, there's a couple games you should try that are similar. One's called Cash Out. Very similar to Hotline Miami, but it's got randomly generated levels and stuff. That's fun. And also Not a Hero. I don't know if you saw that. That feels also very Hotline Miami-ish.
Not a Hero is really cool, actually, because that's the side-scrolling thing, right?
Yeah.
It's got a Broforce vibe to it, sort of. It's got that irreverence to it, that's
Which is pretty great.
Its humor is in its violent absurdity and just how many times can you die in a level, and I don't get sick of it. It doesn't. Nope. It's not one of those games where I just throw the controller down and it's like, oh my god, what do you want from me? Because every time I die, it's my fault. It's not like the game's just mean.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know what other stuff have you been playing that would you say is an influence in your design with Star Nomad?
Star Wars would be one of the games that I like. It's a niche space squad RPG game. Star Wars. Let's see, Mount and Blade is the big inspiration for the Conquest AI.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also FTL for the random encounter. I don't pretend or I don't say that I'm not inspired by these other games because I am. Because at the core, I'm just a gamer. So if I play games that I think it's cool and it's got some nice features, I'll steal it.
Yeah, well, you're basically following my rule number one is make the game you want to play, and then the people that like that will find it, and the people that don't like that are just looking for a different game because make the thing that satisfies you.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. I posted on my forum about that because some players were complaining how they want this and that. And I tell them, they actually told me games or works of passion are rarely profitable. Right? That's what they said to me. I said, well, fine. I'm not out to make a lot of money. I'm just out to make myself happy.
And I think that sounds like it's working because this is a really impressive game. And I was looking. Sorry, go ahead.
As I say, luckily you're not in the mobile market where the Flappy Bird phenomenon seems to be the rule of development. Where it's like minimal effort, just throw them against the wall and hope one sticks. That seems to, because it's so difficult to get noticed in the mobile market, because you basically have to get promoted by Apple or Google, or you're just never show up on the list.
It's not a good system that promotes small developers to succeed. Right. They don't really have much of a chance unless they have some marketing power behind them. Because even on Google, on Android, there's actually no real top new release list, right? Yeah. Or new release list. I mean, you can't find games that are newly released. You can only find games that are marketed a lot.
Yeah, and hey, I have a question too about something that I heard about the Asian mobile market is like China specifically. Like, they don't have a paid app store. Apparently, everything has to be like some sort of a freemium.
Really?
That's what one guy was telling me. He made some kind of like whack-a-mole gopher game, and he said he had trouble with the Asian app stores because it was like you can't charge for the game. You have to put either ad-supported things or some kind of in-app purchase. But they have like a different structure to app stores over there. So because there's a bunch.
Yeah, actually, that's right. I mean, for Android in China, the market, you can't set a price for it. Last I checked.
Oh, so you just like throw it out there and let people end up with it.
Ads, and in-app purchase, things like
that. I wonder if that's like a government thing. Like, they have a law where it's like you can't charge for software or something, which would be kind of ludicrous. But
wasn't it up to a few years ago? It was illegal to own a console in China.
Oh yeah, that's true. Because
what?
Like Sony just started shipping PlayStations over there.
Really?
Which is funny because it's like the country that makes most of our electronics between them and Japan, right? But it's like it's like in China. Oh, they can make it for us. They can't own it themselves.
Yeah,
strange.
See, I'm as much surprised as you are, because even though I'm Asian, China doesn't ring a bell with me, because I grew up and live in Australia, so I'm pretty much westernized.
Yeah, is your family like originally Vietnamese, or where? I didn't see the spelling of your last name, but
yeah, that's right. We were from Vietnam. My daddy was in the south, and he was a colonel with the American Army. So after the war, when the North won, they didn't really appreciate him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's at that point you have to move, because
well,
don't get on well with the neighbors at that point.
Well, they got him into concentration camp, a hard labor, where they, isolation, all those things you see in documentaries, it's real. So that was what my family went through.
Oh my god.
Yeah, is your dad still around, or?
No, he helped a lot of relatives and friends flee on the boats, but when it was his turn, his boat was actually attacked by pirates from Thailand, and they shot everybody, they stole everything, so he didn't make it.
That's unfortunate.
It's just back then, I mean, you have to say why those guys became pirates. They were just fishermen at the start, but you can imagine the poverty and all that. I mean, I don't really blame them.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's unfortunate he's not around, because I was going to encourage you to like talk with him a lot more about that, because like my grandfather, he's passed away now, but it was like he was in World War II, and he didn't talk about it much, but whenever I could get him to talk about it, then it was just like, he was talking to me from a different place, and that's kind of what makes, it's like you read about the war and stuff in books, or you see movies or whatever, but to actually get it from somebody that was there, and then you just kind of, it makes it a lot more of what it was, not just, facts or whatever, because it's more about people at that point.
Yeah, I'm lucky I have an uncle who survived the war, and he's here in Australia, so I get to talk to him about it, and he knows my dad well. So he was in the Navy. My dad was in the Army.
Oh, I guess that once again says if you're gonna go into the armed forces, folks, go into the Navy.
Yeah.
Don't.
Well, there's another guy that I know that he's actually game developer guy, but his dad was in some sort of special forces thing in Vietnam, but to the point where, and his dad's still around, right? But I was asking him like, well, was that like, behind enemy lines spy kind of thing? And he's like, well, dad's got a false tooth because he had one, there was like a tooth literally bite down on it, cyanide tooth. And he's just like, that's, he's like, he's got stories. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I love hearing those stories from, yeah, it's great. I mean, even myself, I haven't really experienced it because I came too late into this world for all that misery, but I appreciate hearing stories about it. Wow. It gives you a sense of groundedness, I guess. You never forget where you came from.
That's for sure.
Isn't that the truth?
Well, and it's just the thing of like when we become ungrounded from it is when we're more at risk for repeating things. It's like as long as we still have people around that can remind us that, those things are very real and very unpleasant.
That's right. So that's why in the history of humankind, I mean, you have major wars that spaced apart several generations. People tend to forget. So we're due for one now, I think.
Okay, don't say that. Don't say that.
Well, it's the thing too of like I enjoy because indie games kind of have the best chance of communicating human things, right? Because the AAA stuff, well, you get Call of Duty, and it's just kind of like, well, conflict is fun, whatever. But it's like then you get a game that's kind of like This War of Mine.
Oh,
where,
I love that game.
And it's just kind of like, oh, okay, that makes me think.
I've not played that one.
I put over 70 hours into that game. It's a work of art. It really is. And if anybody who has not played it, they should really devote time to play it and change your perception.
Well, I own it. I'm looking at it right now. I've just not touched it. So I should change that.
Yeah, it'll be the best game you've played this year. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I need to put more time in it, but it's a hard game to play though, because it's kind of frustrating. But
which is the point.
It's like, yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, it's like, Brian, it's almost like a post-apocalyptic thing, except that it's current world, right? And you just happen to be in a city where there's a war going on, and you're a survivor, right? But the war is still going on. So you're kind of a in-place refugee, or I don't know what you would call that. But it's just like trying to get by day to day with a group of people in a war zone where you're a civilian, and there's looters and there's thugs and there's just all the survival instincts, right, and the things.
Yeah, which usually becomes you. I mean, you looters and thugs and rapists. I mean, that ends up usually you. Jeez. Because of how hard the game is. It forces you to do these things.
Yeah, you have to make some pretty tough choices. But there's a thing like, you're somewhere and you're looting a dumpster looking for food, and you hear like an altercation. So you go look, and it's like some woman being attacked by a soldier, and it's like, do I intervene or not? Well, I have this food, and I have to get it back to my people, or they're going to starve. But do I let this happen to her? And stuff like that. And if you intervene, that might go very poorly for you. So you have to think about it. So yeah, it's a game.
Maybe I don't want to play this. This sounds really gruesome.
Oh, it's a game of wicked choices.
It's a game that all gamers should play, I think. I mean, it really deserves to be played.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of things that celebrate conflict, and I think that this celebrates humanity in conflict. It's a thing of saying, okay, what, there's people there. It's not just like targets or whatever. It's kind of like, somebody's playing Call of Duty over on the next screen, but you're the people that live in the city that they're fighting in, right? So it's about the collateral damage that those things mean.
The human element is one of the things I tried to accomplish with the squad members, because they all have a unique story, and you can help them resolve the issues and the dilemmas as you progress. So you have missions that you can help them with. So.
And it looks like there's tons of mods you can download, like characters and scenarios and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, for this war of mine, there's tons of user-generated content. It's nice.
Oh my goodness! All right, I guess I'm gonna have to play this. Maybe tonight if I want nightmares.
Yeah, but and with the thing that Huy just said about in his game, right, where he's got the human element in his NPCs, and where they have an agenda that they almost kind of like Mass Effect, which is that other game that you need to play, because all the people that are with you, they have a story, right? And that's why you bond with the characters that are with you. That predominantly in Mass Effect 2, which is why it's the best of the series, because it's just like, oh, I met this guy and he joined my team. Oh, great. Well, he's got some problems, and he would really appreciate it if you could just kind of swing by this other planet and help him with his problem, and he'll be a lot more loyal to you after that. Or if you diss him and just say, hey, you know what, you're not, that problem's not important, we have to do this, then he'll be a little different with you. And those things affect the ultimate outcome of the game, and who's alive and who dies, and a lot of things,
Yeah.
So that's a thing about that game, where no two people have I talked to that went through that game and had the same experience, and they all have different stories, and it's a game that you come away with and you have stories about these people like you almost know them, and for them to accomplish that in like 20 hours worth of game is amazing. And unfortunately they couldn't get that lightning to strike twice in the same spot. I hope with the fourth one they kind of get back to it, but 3 wasn't bad, but it wasn't 2. But I'm just happy to hear, like, every time you say, oh yeah, and my game does this too. Right? and it's just like, oh my god, really?
I tried to. I mean, I'm not that talented.
No, but it's just the thing, like, you have made an attempt to put so many things under the skin of this thing that on the surface looks like, your expectations based on first glance are nowhere near what this thing can actually live up to. So
that's something I've learned. So hopefully in the next game I'll try to have a better first impression.
Yeah, I think honestly that my idea about just put a mode in there that's almost like a higher level tutorial thing, where it's just like, hey, I'm going to show you some mid game, and now,
like your max level, and then you do this little tutorial mission and you lose your memory.
Well, yeah, because at the beginning of the game, didn't you like crash on the planet or something, or you just have enough money to buy that ship that you've got, right? So maybe that's how you got there. It was like, okay, we were doing the tutorial, and something bad happened, and
I mean,
now
we're
here recovering. Yeah, because I would hate for people to miss the things that it does, but also it's kind of a disservice to the player to deny them the joy of discovering, like, oh god, it does this, So yeah, it's just, I played it for a couple weeks, and just on the podcast here, I've heard like 10 things that I had no idea this thing was doing. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. It's very rare that we get a game on the show that we don't look at and understand everything that's going on there.
Yeah, exactly. This game is just a continual surprise.
It's like a Christmas present you keep opening up.
Oh, thanks, guys. About the squad thing. When you mentioned Mass Effect 2, when you actually do the squad missions in this game and you actually succeed and help them, they gain bonuses. They fight harder and more meaner, etc. They're more loyal to you.
Huh. That's
So there's that.
Wow. That.
And if you fail, some of the NPC missions, if you fail, has global consequences. Because you can't. The way I did it is that whether you fail or succeed, you can't replay it. So if you fail, there's consequences. If you succeed, there's consequences.
I dig it.
Yeah, that is really cool. If only Elite had a narrative. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you know what I'm doing right now.
One of the missions is you have to stop terrorists from delivering prototype weapons to pirates, right? And well, what happens if you fail? There should be a consequence. Those pirates get the weapons, and suddenly all their ships are just so much more badass, right?
Oh shit!
So is that a mission that comes up like every time, or that's randomly? Like you might play it a couple times and never see that.
Oh, that's one of the storyline missions for the squad.
Yeah, but are you going to get that squad member in that mission for them every time? Is it a guaranteed thing?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
That one in particular is guaranteed. Yeah, because I wanted to make more squad members originally. I had 6 planned out, but I realized halfway through that there's no way I can get this done in time, so I had to keep 3 squad members and focus on that instead.
And by coincidence, they're named Brian, Jim, and Hunter. I don't know why. No money changed hands. No.
So I'm really excited to hear that more might be coming for this game in terms of expanding the underpinnings of the economy to the player's hands. That's what gets me excited.
Yeah.
What else might you have in store for this game before you move on to your next to the post-apocalyptic one you were talking about earlier?
Well, there's a whole bunch of ships that I'm gonna add. Recently, I contacted my artist, and I commissioned a few more ships from her. So we'll get some new, unique, really cool-looking ships in the game.
Nice.
Oh,
for free.
Cool. I really like your ships. It was I saw where you and the other guy were talking about. You know, he's like, no, your ships are cooler, and so that was pretty neat. Who was that? That was Radek, wasn't it?
Yeah.
From the solar thing, yeah. But yeah, he's got some interesting ships too. But yours, they're very visually distinct, and you know, it's like you see the ship and you know it's like, okay, that's a pirate ship, and that's you know, the other empire or whatever. So
yeah,
it's not a muddy middle ground. And then of course you can spot neutral traders as well because they don't look aggressive. So
yeah, that was the goal. Each faction have their own technology, and thus they should have their own look as well. And also they build ships that are theoretically better against their ideology foes, I guess, because the Starborn Federation, they build ships with crystals, so it absorbs energy weapons a lot better, and their enemy is the Human Empire, which uses energy beams, right? So
what?
Yeah.
So also, which side you pick is what sort of ships you're going to have access to, and
that's right.
That will change your experience. Is there any opportunity to actually like capture enemy ships and use them, or are you just kind of stuck with whatever faction you lined up with? Because I didn't see anything there where you could actually.
There's a black market where pirates, on the pirate basis, they sell all kinds of tech and ships from the various factions, and you don't actually need faction standing to get. You just need money.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've been playing a lot of Starpoint Gemini 2 lately, and I've been just stealing the hell out of people's ships in that thing because you can transport Marines over and steal the ship. Honestly, that's like the only way I have figured out how to advance at a decent pace in that game is by stealing and salvaging ships because you get paid, and then you can get out of that junk starter ship that they give you. But yeah, so
see, I didn't tell players I didn't tell players, or I didn't hold their hands that there's a black market. I mean, they can get all kinds of high-level tech as long as they can afford it. I mean, it's something they discover for themselves if they explore.
I didn't know that. Oh my god.
I know, right? Like he did it again. What?
Damn it!
Every time he tells us something about this game, it does something else. It's like, is there a kitchen sink at some point where,
Well,
you know?
I had a bug report. Some players said that I have this jump hole that doesn't have any labels on the map. Like it must be a bug, right? I said no, just go through it. You go through it and tell me where you end up. And so he did, and then wow, it's a shortcut.
I'm so glad you didn't say, oh, and then you go to the alternate universe where the other half of the game is, and it's like.
Now, if I had more time and resources, yeah, that's what we would have done.
Because it's like you get there and Spock's got a beard. Who knew?
Spock with a goat. All right. Well, we've been talking almost 2 hours. You should probably wrap this shit up.
I know. It's like if we keep talking, his game's going to sprout more features, and then we'll never finish it.
We'll never play it again because it's like, God, there's too much in here. We'll never get through it.
Now it's an MMO? What? Who knew?
Yeah.
Wait, if you go to this one planet, suddenly it's World of Warcraft? Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, you didn't
mean
get to
add
the
a real-time
RTS?
strategy?
Yeah, you didn't get to the ground-based combat? Because...
No way.
No!
Now it's Warhammer 40,000. What the? Where'd these orcs come from?
Wait a minute, you actually take a wormhole and you're in Star Wars at Starkiller Base? What? Well, that was
no,
what
nobody
it was
goes
called.
to Starkiller Base because it's absurd. This game is serious.
Thank you, Jim, for
We don't-
coercing that.
We don't brook that insanity here. So,
Wow. Well, Huy, I want to thank you for taking the time for being so candid about not only your first space game, but this one. I mean, we learned... What did we learn tonight, guys? We learned that Chromium's a thing. We learned that...
Yeah, it's free. It's good and it's free.
Wait, what? It's free?
yeah, it's
Oh
totally
yeah,
free.
it's free. That's why I used it.
Holy shit. Okay, so we learned that Chromium is a thing and that it's free. We learned that this game has... It's like an onion that never ends. It's like the blooming onion at Outback Steakhouse that never stops giving, is what this game is, really. Oh
I know,
my
right?
God.
Like, if we can get Hoy and the Asterix guy to
Oh.
join up for a project, we would not need another game. We would be
Not
set.
really. No. Now, can you imagine?
Because he could put the dynamic economy in the other guy's Eve offline, and we're good.
And you have the 3D engine / map of the other game, which is amazing. And
If we could just get the dynamic economy over into Elite, I'm just saying.
Yeah, is there a
but-
way to import this into Elite?
I know
if
you.
I just
I know you
rub it-
frequently criticize Elite, but I mean, have you thought that maybe the way it is just Braben's vision, and that
Oh, yeah,
he doesn't want it to be like the
That-
way you wanted it? Like I mean,
You're describing my horror there. I wake up screaming at night, thinking that this is his vision, and the thing is, the visuals have come up to
let me give you an
today.
example. Let me give you an example. Okay, the mouse over to bring up all the prices of nearby systems for your goods and the profits you make. Okay, that's something I add because of some suggestions. I didn't have it originally, and because I was thinking, as players explore, they find where the best routes are. I guess it encourages players to think more for themselves, in a way. But when I added my feature, I thought, yeah, that's pretty functional. It's good too. I mean, they're
Yeah.
both good. Both ways of doing it is good, I guess. So maybe that's just Braben's vision, that he doesn't want to throw all this info at you, and that he wants a little element of mystery.
Well, it's not so much that it's a mystery until I get there. I just wish that my map would remember it after I left. At least the last time I saw it, that would be satisfactory to me. But no, that's kind of like I said, the horror is I realize, okay, this game looks like 2016, but under that skin is 1984. It is still the same game, but the downside of that is that 1984 game was hard as hell, and it had an edge to it, because the reward in that game was just surviving the next time that you had to dock. It was, and the reason that you needed a bigger ship is because everything was trying to kill you all the time. And in this, it's I don't feel that threat because I got interdicted. Well, I'll jump away from the guy. It's not that big a deal. so it kind of tries to cater to the more casual player that would get very frustrated with the super hardness of the original game, and yet it doesn't bring the conveniences.
You hear that?
Yeah.
That's my little boy. It's way past his.
I think you're being told.
Bedtime.
Okay, here we go, guys. Huy, I want to thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, we'll see. Oh boy, wow.
Yeah, we'll continue that in the forum. By the way, thank you for being a very active person in the Facebook group, because it's a joy to talk to you. Even before we knew you were making the game, or before I did at least, it was like we had some good interaction, and then it was like, oh, that's the guy making that. Oh, so yeah.
So guys, next week we're having a couple of the folks on behind a new 4X coming out called Stars in Shadow. That's what's happening next Tuesday on the podcast. And this week on the podcast, we are going to return. We're going to party like it's 2000 with Star Lancer, but in co-op. Because that thing's campaign does co-op. And we got it to work. And it's
we got that
great.
We got that shit working.
We got it working in co-op. It's
Are you going to call up Wingman and say,
I
come
did.
here and play your game?
Well, let's take that offline. But thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next week or Thursday or whenever.